I'm going to kick things off and welcome everyone for our session. We're so excited to welcome Channa Srey, class of '03, for a conversation about our personal stories, power, purpose, and possibilities as part of the Brown Global Alumni Career Initiative. My name is Alexia Benros. I am the Career Network Coordinator for the Office of Alumni Relations, and I sit on the Career and Life Design team. The Career and Life Design program in the Brown Office of Alumni Relations is comprised of career and mentoring opportunities to build our Burnonian communities. The three pillars of career and life design include early engagement, experiential engagement, and life after graduation, all points that we've been touching on across this initiative this summer. Through workshops and one-on-one coaching and innovative resources, we empower alumni to design their lives by building valuable networks and making connections with employers and alumni to alumni, to stay current with a diverse array of possibilities, fostering a sense of purpose and direction. Today, we'll get to hear from Channa Srey as he leads this workshop on our personal stories, power, purpose, and possibilities. This session will really explore the profound impact that sharing our personal narratives can have on our lives and the lives of others. We all have a story to tell. In fact, we have many stories. These narratives are uniquely ours and shaped by our experiences, challenges, triumphs, and the diverse paths we've walked. They're stories that not only we can tell, but carrying authenticity in our individual journeys. A little bit about Channa. We're so excited to have him here today, representing and leading this session and this conversation. Channa Srey is on a mission to expand educational opportunities and increase access to higher education. With a career spanning over 2 decades, his work remains deeply guided by his personal experience as a low-income first-generation immigrant student. He understands firsthand how opportunities, resources, and support can be critical to one's success, and his career underscores an unwavering commitment to increasing opportunity and access for those who are historically marginalized or overlooked. In his current role as Director of Programs at La Vida Scholars, and through his previous work with youth programs such as Possible Zone, Upward Bound, Educational Talent Search, he has personally helped thousands of students access higher education. Channa is a fierce advocate for students, is an expert in helping them tell their unique stories and showcasing their authentic selves through all aspects of their education journey. He holds a bachelor's degree in business economics from Brown, of course, and a master's degree in education policy management from Harvard. Channa, we're so excited for today's session. I think it resonates with so many. I'm going to kick things over to you and let you get us started for this impactful conversation.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alexia. Thank you for that introduction. Everyone, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a bit of my story with you today. I believe there is power, purpose, and possibilities in our stories. And I believe that the right person in the right place at the right time can make all the difference. So let me tell you all about it. All right. My story began here at the border of Thailand and Cambodia. And the reason for this was the genocide that took place in Cambodia from 1975 to 1979. It is estimated that 1.5 to 2 million people died during the Cambodian genocide, which was about 20 to 25% of the Cambodian population at the time. My family fled from our home country to escape the killing fields and made their way to a refugee camp that was located on the border of Thailand and Cambodia. The name of this camp was Kavadang. So this is what it looks like from an aerial viewpoint. And this is inside the camp. And this is outside on the ground. From 1979 to 1992, about 160,000 people fleeing genocide and starvation took refuge in this camp, waiting for a chance to return home or to resettle in another country. My parents were among those people, and in 1981, I came into the world as a refugee. I spent my early years in the camp until it was time to leave, until it was our turn to leave. After years of waiting, our time would eventually come, and we ultimately found our new home in America. After much moving around, we finally settled in Lynn, Massachusetts. And you see on the map there, Lynn is very close to Boston. In fact, it's about a 30-minute drive from Boston. Lynn has a population of 90,000 people, and it's really relatively diverse with about 50% white, 50% people of color. Unfortunately, 21% of the population lives below the poverty level. And Lynn was known for its high crime rate and gang violence in the 1990s. So it had a really bad reputation as well. In fact, Lynn has its unofficial slogan, which is Lynn, Lynn, the city of sin. You never go out the same way you came in. And then the second part of it is Lynn, Lynn, the city of sin. You ask for water, they'll give you gin. It's not good. It wasn't a very pleasant slogan. Lynn can be a tough place to grow up in. And so thinking about the future was difficult for many of us. It was really hard to imagine what a good future would look like. Even my own mother said to me that if I could graduate high school, she would be satisfied. And to many of us, this might seem like such a low bar. But to her, seeing all the dropouts in our neighborhood, and here's my neighborhood right here, high school graduation was not a given. So the picture that just popped up onto your screen, that is my actual neighborhood. I grew up in a housing project in Lynn, and all the units essentially look the same. You go into one, you've been to them all because they were all exactly the same. This picture that popped up just now, that's my high school. That's where I actually went to high school in the 90s, and it's no longer a high school actually. It has been converted since into a middle school. So anyway, for me, I had no doubt that I would graduate high school, but I was not as confident about what my future would be after that. And as fate would have it, there was someone who would be the right person in the right place at the right time, who was going to make a big difference in my life as I think about my future. So it was the summer before my senior year. So this was summer 1998, right before my senior year. I was playing tennis with a classmate of mine, and we were joined by one of her family friends. And after our tennis game, after we finished playing tennis, my friend, the family friend of my friend, he asked about what our plans were for after high school graduation, and I was honest, I really didn't really, I haven't really figured it out. And then he started to tell me that, oh, I went to Brown University. Have you heard of it? And I was honest with him. I told him I've never heard of Brown University. And he was he was almost shocked. In fact, maybe he was shocked that I hadn't heard of it. He he began to tell me that it was really world famous, that it was really a fantastic college, and that he went there and really enjoyed his time there. And he was willing to take us for a visit before the summer was over. And that was my introduction to Brown. It was through this Brown alum, and he was just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And he would be the person who would really sparked my interest in going to Brown. So after he brought us to the campus visit, and after having an official tour, an info session, and talking to other undergrads that were there, I just knew that Brown was special. I just knew that it was the kind of place that I wanted to be in for at least for my undergraduate career. I guess it probably didn't take much to wow me, considering I hadn't done too many college tours or anything like that. For me, it was a fantastical new world, and I was excited to potentially be a part of it. So come the fall, I decided that I was going to give it a shot, that I would apply. And at the time, I really didn't know what I was doing. And apparently Brown was part of this thing called the Ivy League, and I had no idea what an Ivy League was or what the Ivy League was. So I had to learn a lot of new information very quickly. And then apparently the Ivy League was really hard to get into. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So when I was applying, people were like, "Are you sure? Do you think you're really gonna get in?" I'm like, you know, I really don't know. But I loved what I saw. I love what I experienced when in that environment on campus. I love being there, even just briefly. I'm gonna give it a try. You know, like I would rather try and fail than never trying at all and regretting that I never gave myself a chance. For me, the regret was a lot greater than trying and failing. So if I fail, whatever. It was never in the plan to begin with. So I thought I had nothing to lose. I really didn't. My goal was never to go to Brown. My feelings would be hurt, but I think I would get over it. So I applied, and I think you know I got in. I The letter is funny because the letter is April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. And I'm sure the admission committee was just like, this would be fun to date it April Fools. I thought I had a good chuckle. I had a good chuckle. I was very ecstatic when I got in, and I think I was the only one because no one in my family knew what Brown was either. So when I told them about it, they're just like, yeah, what is it? Like, you know, like I was like, yeah, I heard it was a great school. And they were like, where is it? And I told them it's in Rhode Island. And like, don't you think that's kind of far? Why don't you go to school in Boston? There's plenty of school in Boston, right? So my family had no idea what Brown is. And I don't blame them because none of them had gone to college, right? So I was the first. I would be the first, and to go to college. But I was definitely going to college because I got in. And then my peers were also shocked that I got in. And I was shocked that I got in. So it was, for me, it was such, uh, yeah, it was just such a pleasant and wonderful, unexpected surprise. And it was because of someone who was in the right place at the right time and who introduced me to this opportunity, right? Who provided me with this new possibility. So I've exceeded other people's expectation, even my own mother, and maybe my own expectation as well. Um, I like to know, you don't have to answer right now, but please, in what ways have you exceeded other people's expectations or even your own? So this is just a reflection question, food for thought. We can talk about it if you want in the discussion afterwards. But I want us to think about this question because I know every single one of us here have exceeded expectations in one way or another, right? Even if they're our own or if they're other people's or their society in general. As you know, I ended up going to Brown, and I spent 4 years there. And during my 4 years at Brown, I saw firsthand, I saw firsthand what privilege looked like, and privilege looked like my classmates. They were sons and daughters of celebrities, world leaders, politicians, business owners, you name it. There were people who were already famous, and then there were people who were so talented that they were going to be famous, right? So during 1999 to 2003, there were people on campus such as, let's see, this person here. This is Hollywood actress Lily Sobieski, uh, who was on campus at the time. And this is Matthew Reeve, Superman's son, Christopher Reeve's son. And we had Lucy DeVito, Danny DeVito's daughter. And we had this guy, his name is Boris Yeltsin Jr. you know who he's related to. And we have movie star John Krasinski. And then we have David Digg, Broadway star from Hamilton. And so many talented people were there. I was surrounded by really smart, talented, and many of them were from very privileged background to begin with. And my freshman year roommate, for example, he was from California. He was valedictorian, and he was valedictorian in a class of 6 people. Talk about personalized attention, right? 6 people. It turned out that he attended a tennis academy, which really helped to basically prepare him to become a professional tennis player. And he had also gone to other schools in the Ivy League and chose Brown because he thought Brown was special for its open curriculum, which many of us feel the same way. But yeah, it was such a culture shock to be surrounded by, or even have a roommate that was so smart and talented, and from all the from the other side of the country. And so I felt such major culture shock just to be surrounded by my classmates who were so different from me in many ways, and the culture shock was tremendous. And aside from this, the academic rigor was a lot to handle, and oftentimes it was overwhelming for me. And then I couldn't get help back home because folks back home could not understand what I was going through. And for me, I started to think that, oh my gosh, graduation is no longer a given. It was scary. I was scared. I am not going to sugarcoat it. I was very scared that I might not graduate because I was in a place where I was really challenged, right? I was really challenged. But what helped to sustain me was my purpose. For being there. I came to college not just for myself, but for my family and my home community. I was there to prove to everyone that those of us growing up in the projects can succeed and will succeed. And I thought, as long as my purpose is greater than my pain, I will persevere. And so I did. And additionally, I made friends at Brown, and we became, my friends at Brown, and we became each other's support system. You could say we were the right people in the right place at the right time for each other. And together we crossed the finish line and earned our college degree. Shortly after Brown, I discovered that there was a term used to describe myself and others who shared similar experiences as me. We were called first generation students. I'm not even used that term all through college. I didn't see myself as that because I've never even heard that term, first generation students. But that's what we were. That's what I was. So I would like to share with you a few reflections from other first gens that really resonated with me. Because our stories may be uniquely ours, but there are some common thread that unites us. And so here are some reflections of other folks who were first gen. I go to college in order to help my family. I see college as a way to bring honor to my family. And then 69% of first-generation college students say they want to help their families, compared to 39% of students whose parents have earned a degree. 61% of first-generation college students want to give back to their communities, compared to 43% of their non-first generation peers. There's something special about being first gen. But going to college comes with unexpected consequences. Entry into college feels like a break in my family system rather than a continuation of my schooling. I struggle with breakaway guilt. My decision to pursue higher education comes with the price of leaving my families behind. My desire for education and upward mobility may be viewed as a rejection of my past. I've developed two different identities, one for home and another for college. Perceived as different at home and different at school, I often feel like I don't belong in either place. My academic ability, achievement, and performance may be underestimated by others. My background is viewed as a deficit rather than a strength. Other students and faculty, and even myself, may question my right to be on campus. Now, I want you to think about like these reflections. Do they resonate with you? Were you a first-gen student? And if you weren't a first-gen student, did you know that your peers, your first-gen peers, might have been having these thoughts? So while uh, the distance may seem the same, right? That the road to the finish line to that college degree, right? To higher education, maybe that those 4 years may seem like 4 years for everyone, but a lot can happen in those 4 years. A lot of hurdles can and obstacles can exist. Uh, Hurdles that may be different from other people's hurdle, right? Particularly if you are first generation. So with first generation, as we know, there are family and community pressure and expectations. On top of that, there are social, academic, financial, and emotional challenges. And on top of that, to add more. So let me just briefly, I think I left off at the hidden curriculum, right? Yeah, so the hidden curriculum is essentially, there are things that we needed to know prior to going to college that we were not taught. For example, before I got to Brown, I had no idea what an internship was. Like I've never heard the term internship before. All through high school, I was working, but I was working at Walmart, and Walmart didn't call it an internship. They called it a job. And we were working, and it wasn't for our education or career advancement. We were working so that we can help pay the bills and help support our families, and really just fend for ourselves too. So working out of necessity. So I mean, I can still hear it now. Channa to the front for carriages, please. Channa to the front for carriages. I mean, that still haunt my dreams. It was it was an experience I would never want to do it again, but I'm glad I did, because it was really a lot of hard work, but there was value in that hard work as well. But the hidden curriculum, again, it's not accessible and available to everyone, and that's why it's hidden. But folks who were exposed to it, they go to college already understanding what office hours mean, already understanding that they need to build a relationship with their professors, already understanding that they need to be looking for that internship as soon as possible for that summer. So they have an advantage. Culture shock, much of that. the lack of support and mentors. I think this is huge, having support and mentors. There's no substitution for having that support and mentors, that real relationship that is going to sustain you and really help also give you perspective when things are tough, especially if you're the first to do anything and you're essentially a trailblazer, right? And it could be really scary walking down a path that you could not really see too far ahead, right? So having mentors, having folks, having connections to folks who've gone through the journey is so critical. And I had that with that alum that introduced me to Brown. I kept in touch with him throughout my undergrad, and I call him up every now and then when I'm struggling and be like, "Hey, is this not, is this normal to feel this way? Like, can you give me some perspective here? Like, am I an outlier? Like, do I belong at Brown with all these people? Like, I could use some advice." And so having support and mentors was really critical. There's many more. You can teach a whole class on this, teach a whole semester on this, but we won't today. I just want to cover it really at a high level, so that we can spark conversation, and we can also be on the same page in terms of like uh, what the experience of a first generation college students could potentially look like. So yeah, so while it may look like it's the same distance to that college degree, the experience could be vastly different. But nonetheless, I think if you ask me, would you do it all over again? Would you put yourself through that experience? I would say 100%. 100%, because although there were many obstacles, I think overcoming those obstacles was in itself an achievement, and in itself was an extraordinary achievement that ought to be recognized and celebrated, right? I think had I not graduated, had I not finished and got that degree, I still would have been proud of myself because I gave myself a chance, right? Because I did what society thought people like me could not do, right? Um, so I would be okay with it. I would eventually be okay with it, because I would recognize the effort that I put in, and then that. But I would be sad because again there was that expectation that I would set an example for others to see, that things beyond their community, things beyond their knowledge, things that they thought were not possible was in fact possible. And for me, that would have been a missed opportunity if I didn't graduate college. So that was my purpose. Yeah, so going to and through college was certainly a pivotal experience for me. And I think it might be the same for many as well. So what do you consider to be a pivotal experience in your life, and why? And I want to pose this question because as you think about telling your own story, um, you're gonna, I'm sure, I'm positive you're gonna remember experiences when you reflect back, these experiences that whether they were positive or negative, they were pivotal in some ways. They had influenced you in some way. They have shaped you in some way, right? And directed your path in your life in some particular way. So my personal story, I feel that my personal story empowers me and it gives me purpose, right? So in my current role as director of programs at La Vida Scholars, I get to live out that purpose. Right now, I get to be the right person in the right place at the right time for my students, right? I can introduce new possibilities into another person's life, right? Now I am that Brown alum for someone else. So my work has really been heavily influenced by my personal experience, my personal journey to and through college as a first generation student. And now I get to work with an organization whose mission, and you see there on your screen, is partnering with families, right? Equipping low income, high achieving students with access to resources and opportunities to enter top colleges and graduate with minimal to no debt. Totally living out my purpose by working in college access, in the college access field, but in this organization in general. This organization also happens to be in Lynn, Massachusetts. So I am back in my home community, right? Uh, working with my people, essentially. And here are some or our current stats and the impact that we are having on students. And I'm so glad that I'm able to utilize my story to inspire and to motivate our students and families, because I've been where they are, and I think for them to see that I grew up where they are growing up, and that I had more possibilities than I could have ever imagined, and it was because of someone sharing uh, their story with me, and now I'm sharing my story. I get to pay it forward. Really, I'm sharing my story with the families and the students that I'm working with. Um, it's it's interesting um, that I'm in this role, but I think it's also it's the right role, and I'm in the right place at the right time. Um, I just want to point out that 98% of our students identify as people of color. 88% are the first in their families to attend college, and 83% come from immigrant families. These are very, very significant percentages. And I'm even more pleased with the impact that we are having, with 98% of our scholars going on to college. And here, in contrast, in Lynn, only 34% of high school graduate, and of only 34% of Lynn high school graduates go on to college. And then we also have Chelsea students. Chelsea is uh, an, a city that's right next to Lynn, so we're very close to each other. We also serve Chelsea students, and only 28% of Chelsea high school students graduate and go on to college. So these numbers are really, really low. But with these low numbers, there's an opportunity to make a greater impact. There's an opportunity for us to really, really make a deep impact in these community, opening up access to higher education, preparing our students for that experience, and then eventually our students will earn their college degree. In fact, 78% of our students earn college degrees, which is well above the national average of 43%, and well above Lynn and Chelsea averages of around 22%. And then furthermore, a class of 2023, 60% of that graduating class had no loans. So they will be debt free after they graduate college. So we're setting them up for success, as much success as we possibly can. And we will continue to do so as we continue to expand, and we are going to serve within the next 3 years. We are doubling our efforts to serve double the number of students. So we're going to serve 360 students every year, which is the most in the history of this organization. But we can do it, and we have to do it because people's futures are at stake. But lucky me, I get to live out my purpose, and I have the power to help folks find new possibilities and more possibilities in their lives. So I want to end here by asking the question: how might your personal story unlock power, purpose, and possibilities for you? And with that, let's turn to our discussion.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Jonna. I think that I'm just going to jump right in and say that for me, I think just being able to reflect after this session and think about, how we might have exceeded other people's expectations or your own. I think I'm kicking things off, but being first gen myself, not only taking that step to go on and pursue education and being the first of my family to do so, but expanding and learning that, oh, I had other options other than being a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher. I think that was really eye-opening for my family that there were other paths. So I just really resonated with a lot of the hidden curriculum and a lot of the things that you mentioned throughout that conversation, because I think that sometimes the first hurdle is getting there, and then the second hurdle is like, oh my gosh, wow, I have so many options that I didn't know I had all these
Mm.
different career paths.
Yeah, I think having options is wonderful, but it's also can be daunting if you don't know what to do with those options, and also if folks around you have no idea what those options really mean, right? So they're unable to really guide you and figure out, okay, which option would be best for me, right? So even in that, even in having options there, there's the extra layer of complexity, right? But yeah, having options is having I'm all for options. I'm all like the more options, the more possibilities, like I'm for it. But at the same time, it could be really, really daunting.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. We have a few questions that were sent anonymously in the chat, so I'm just going to share those out. So, Jana, question for you: how might your personal story unlock power, purpose, and possibilities for you? But what about how we use our story to unlock power, purpose, and possibilities for others? How do you choose to use your story to help others?
Yeah, I think uh, to answer really succinctly, just live your life. Be you, be true to you. I think authenticity is gonna really speaks volume. And then for me, when I engage in conversation with students and family, they can tell, like they're smart. They can tell when you're being real and when you're putting on a show or just when you're trying to be someone who you're not. So be your authentic self, and your story will emerges, right? I think that's what happened with me. I think when I talk to students, I don't immediately tell them my story like I did with you all just now, but the story emerged from you just living, just being yourself, being true to who you are, right? And then eventually it'll spark curiosity in them, and they'll ask more questions like, oh, so you went to Brown, what is that? Or you went to Brown, oh wow, I heard of that. Like, could you tell me more? Oh, you grew up and you went to Lynn Classical High School. What was that like? Because I go to Lynn Classical High School now, but it's a different building, it's a different school. So I think you are going to have an impact whether you want to or not. I think, but that level of impact, right, it's different depending on who you're talking to, but at the same time, depending on how much you're willing to share, and also how much you are living out your truth, right? So don't be afraid to shine. Just don't be afraid to be who you are, right? And let your light shine. Don't think that oh, I don't have anything to share, or my story isn't that unique, or my story isn't like, other people's story, which is like kind of crazy, but really awesome. Like, do not compare your story to another person. Right? Your story, you own it, claim it, own it, live it, right? And then that, I think, when people see that you're doing that and that you're living out authentically your truth, they are gonna gravitate towards you, and they're gonna probably be interested in hearing more. And then there's your opportunity to use your story, right, to help others find their story, to help others find their purpose, find their possibility, right, find their power in their story. So I would say, do you and live out loud, you know?
That's so wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing that. And in your story too, I think that storytelling is such a powerful tool when we think about our mentor community, and what that looks like. And we have a question for you here. It says, Channa, you frequently connected with Brown students to help build our first gen community. So what does the Brown Network mean to you, and what advice can you share with us to best use our Brown Network?
I think so if I had to describe the Brown Network and what it means to me, I can say in one word, and that's community, right? The more that we can build authentic community that is rooted in care, in respect, right, in celebration of who each one of us is, I think that is what really helps people to feel connected, right? And when they feel connected, they want to get involved, right? I stay involved, and I got involved and stayed involved in a lot of like Brown alumni initiatives with undergrads as well as with other alum, because I see myself being a part of this authentic community of folks who are like you, Alexia and Johanna, and others here, and Violet, and others here that's on this chat who have yet to meet, but hopefully you can and will. Um, I don't see you all as strangers. I see us being connected, united, via the Brown experience, whether you were a student or whether you are a professional working at Brown. Um, I think the fact that for me, I value community, I seek community, and community is sustaining, especially in the work that I do, which is really like emotionally draining at times, intellectually draining too. Intellectually challenging. You need to sustain yourself, right? So, and I do that in community. So I would say figure out or really think deeply, or like work together to create bonds and find community, whether it's a virtual community or whether it's a community that's very place-based, right? Like you have alumni networks all over the world. Like it doesn't have to be like the major cities. It could be small pods in like other locations that we may overlook, right? Like I think it would be my dream to be able to go anywhere in the world and say, hey, you went to Brown too? And I just connect with people, Brown alums and Brown professionals all over the world, because we are such a tight community that is so glued together in many ways by our respect for one another, but also by our Brown experience.
That is so beautifully put. I think it's such a joy for us on the Career and Life Design team to hear that and just to see it every day with our work as we develop and build community. And at least for me in my role, it's never loses its sparkle or shine to see how excited folks are to engage with one another and connect with their community and network. So it's really something special. I know that I'm biased, but there's definitely some magic on campus. Something in the special sauce. One other thing I wanted to share out. when, asking the question of what you consider a pivotal experience in your life and why, a really powerful response was, my first Upward Bound interview was a pivotal experience for me. I remember it like it was yesterday. I think that, thinking about the first gen community, I think you shared, I mean, a similar experience with having this, really eye-opening experience of being able to see the university and to say, oh, okay, I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna apply. And those moments really feel like they just are so imprinted on us, right? And they feel like it was just yesterday.
Yeah, it's really important to actually to be in the space, right? Like to it's easier to say, hey, like visualize yourself being on campus. Yeah, that's easy to say, but how would I do that? How would I even know how to
Mhm.
visualize myself being on a college campus when I don't even know what a college campus is? Right? So there's no substitution for actually like going to campus, uh experiencing the food there on campus during your visit, for example, right? Well, I mean, maybe not go to the ratty. Um, but really, taking in the actual environment. And I think a lot of time, right, for us, it's hard to be what you can't see, right? So for something like Upward Bound, for example, they take students to college visits, right? And then Upward Bound also has a residential component over the summer where students actually live on campus, right? That's wonderful. Um, and so not only students are able to picture themselves on campus, they are actually to for a brief moment experience campus life, right? So that when they do get to campus, it won't be such a shock to their system, right? Because they would have been there before. It might not be the same exact campus necessarily, but they've been to a version of a college campus, right? So when things are more familiar, it's less jarring to your senses.
And and lastly, wondering if you can give some insight. We had a great questioner. What are the best ways to get involved with college access for first generation students in Rhode Island? I know that your work is focused right now in Lynn, but if you can provide any insight on someone who is excited and looking to get involved, maybe as a first step.
Yeah, so I would look into to see, um, like we mentioned Upward Bound, right? I would do some research to see if there's Upward Bound in Rhode Island, um, or another trio program, right? Upward Bound is part of a larger umbrella of college access and success programs called Trio, right? So they have different versions. They have educational talent search, uh, they have Upward Bound, they have student support services, they have the McNair Scholar Program. So I would do some research. I think a quick Google search of like trio programs in Rhode Island. I guarantee you you will find results there, and maybe either volunteer with those programs or work for those programs, right? And then also, I believe Brown has a pre-college program that they target local Rhode Island students, right? And then I know Brown has the Swear Center. I'm Do they still have the Swear Center? Like they yeah, exactly. Yes, and then the U Fly Center at Brown as well. So really connect with the resources at Brown. As I mean, don't be afraid to knock on doors, right? Even if you haven't been to Brown. Yes, Providence has Outward Bound for exactly. I see in the chat there. I am a PCEP graduate. Oh, congratulations. Yes. So yeah, so there are opportunities if you seek those opportunities, and even like don't be afraid to go back to Brown and knock on doors, even if you haven't been to campus or haven't interacted with anyone at Brown for years and years. If I know Brown, and I do know Brown, they will welcome you, even if they haven't seen you in decades, right? So there are resources at our alma mater that we can tap into. Whether that's whether that's finding opportunities to get involved in college access work, or maybe that's generally just thinking about your own career path and where you want to go to next, right? I think folks over at Brown will be really happy and excited to be working with you. Oh yeah, and then ask around. Obviously, I talk about community, right? We have the LinkedIn group, right? So post in the LinkedIn group that question, and maybe somebody will help you direct you to more resources. I think what's really great is now that we've all, we've gone to college, we graduated, and now we have a network, a community of folks who actually want to see each other succeed, right? And I think generally we want to see each other succeed, and we will uh help each other when asked, right? But you don't if you don't ask, you won't get. Um, so you have to make that ask. I would encourage you to reach out to the Brown community, to Brown in general, and then to others in your network that you folks in your social circle, right? Um, that you are more connected with, maybe on a more daily basis.
Channa, thank you so much for this impactful session. I think that it was so great, and we so appreciate you taking the time to share your story, and we appreciate you as a mentor and being a part of this, Brown Global Alumni community with this career initiative. So thank you so much for sharing your story and being vulnerable with us today and creating a space that we can all do the same.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, for the invitation to do this. It was really unexpected, but I super appreciate the opportunity to be in community with you all, and to be engaged in this conversation with you all this morning. So I really appreciate it.